Hi, my name's Leighton Jin. I'm the Director of Development for the American Documentary and Animation Film Festival. We call it AmDocs for short. I got two great animators, filmmakers, with a really cool project called Inner Freak. We got Derek. I should have asked you how to pronounce it. Derek Cuneo, is that right?
Cuneo.
Oh,
Cuneo.
I wasn't even in the ballpark.
That's
And
good.
then
No
Kate
one gets it.
Monig. Yeah, we were focused on
Right.
Kate's name because there was something. I forgot to ask Derek how to pronounce your name. So Derek, pronounce your name one more time, and I'm so sorry I missed it.
Cuneo, Derek Cuneo.
Cuneo. And your collaboration has got this really interesting story, how it started. Can you talk about how you guys met and collaborated on this film?
Yeah. So it all started actually before Derek and I even knew one another. I was working on a 40-day during COVID. I was working on just an illustration a day to keep my like brain like keep myself like sane during all of it. Um, and that had led to me actually uh, kind of hooking up with a what's it called a developer at Sony like through Instagram. She messaged me and was like, "Hey, we like your style. Just want to work with you, see if you have any ideas." Um, and during that time, I sort of created this story called Allegorium. It was about this world where this girl's subconscious comes to life, and it was a much bigger project. So I created a pitch and it ended up not going through, but I was like, hey, like I really want to make this still. So I put out an ad onto Facebook and a woman was like, hey, like I'm gonna just share this in my network. And it somehow got onto a bulletin, some like online bulletin that Derek is a part of. I guess at
It
the
was like
school.
some sort of Emerson feed, uh, which my
Yeah, and
wife went to school at Emerson. I guess your friend had gone to school as well. So neither one of us went to Emerson, but we met through an Emerson networking
yeah, so
feed
we were just
on
like this.
Facebook.
And I had no idea who it was going out to. I was like, sure, like just if you want to share it, that would be awesome. Because I'm an illustrator and a writer, so I was like, I need an animator and just somebody who has the passion to want to make something because I have no money. So hopefully somebody will want to do this together. And we came together and we took the story and we really like boiled it down to its essence of this. I don't know how much of the story we're going to give away right now.
Okay,
um,
no, whatever you're comfortable with.
No spoils.
yeah, I don't know. Spoiler alert: this sexually repressed woman's hand comes to life, and it's this like total horn dog. So we had taken all of the excess away and just left those characters, and then made a 4-minute short. And um, I didn't know that how much it had resonated with Derek for his own personal reasons. For me, it was about sexual repression of women and just like being weird and the like the repression of a woman plus the like weird, gross sort of like horny side that women have also that like comes out a lot. But then Derek also has his own relationship to it, which for both of us, like when he told me it like really we really like melded together and I was like, oh, okay, this guy's like in for more than just making a film. So I will let Derek
Yeah,
continue
I
there.
originally on my end was just I had just finished a short film that I had finished. It actually was finished January 2020. And so I got it out into the film festival circuit, but with COVID, none of them were happening. So it was all like remote. And so I was a little frustrated and looking for another project to work on, another project to build. My MO as an animator, motion designer has been to and director has been looking for like new passion projects, something that like kind of stretches my ability to be a storyteller and director. The first one I worked on was very kid centric. I got into animation because I wanted to do kids storytelling. But from there, I was like, I want to do something very different. And so I was just looking around trying to find a creative partner, some sort of story idea, something to latch onto to figure out what my next project was. And that's where I found that lead from Kate's post. And so we met and talked. And honestly, I fell in love with her artwork. It was super unique from an animation motion design perspective. It just had so much on the table that I could play with and do. And then the stories she had that she wanted to play with and the characters she had were just so raunchy and weird and had that late night vibe. Personally, I love Adult Swim. You know, I grew up watching all those like really whacked out cartoons. And so it was like, oh, this is an amazing direction to take. You know, like this is really, really character centric, really, really expressive character. really, really raunchy in a way I hadn't played with, even a little violent at times. And so it was like, it was just really allowed me to stretch myself. And then it happened to be, about sexual repression. And as a queer man, I have my own experience with sexual repression. And so it was like, it was a story that even the story we ended up with wasn't where we started. We were kind of just playing with a character whose hand came to life and was kind of forcing a sexual revolution on her, forcing her to express herself and explore what it meant to be sexual. And so we just played with this character a bunch and wrote a bunch of different stories, gave a bunch of ideas. And the more it went, the more I realized that like I had a lot that I had personal stake in this character and in the stories we were telling. And then I realized, we hadn't actually really talked about why this character was dealing with sexual oppression, and so we had to have a conversation like hey, we should like really connect on this understanding of why are we writing this character, what's happening. And then we both realized we were coming from two very different places with the repression, but it allowed us to really kind of come together, and her being an illustrator and me being an animator, having two different focuses on this medium. It just kind of was like this perfect explosion of creativity for over 2 years.
Now, are there hopes of, you said it was a 4 minute, are there hopes for you guys to maybe expand on this? Because it feels like you guys scratched the surface, and through the process, you guys found a lot more in common, and maybe there's more on the subject that you can make it a little bit longer. Is that something you guys plan or hope to do with this, or will you try to switch or pivot to something different?
We have other shorts in mind that we've written up and have like, a few more episodes that, if I had so much time, I would be like, let's do it right now. I don't know about Derek, but I'd be like, let's do it.
You know how long it takes to animate. I mean, this was 2 years, and this is a lot, pretty intensive just to get that 4 minutes. I think we have a bunch of we have characters and side characters built around this world. We have a few different stories. In a perfect world, we'd love to tell more and explore more of this. I mean, we ultimately ended up doing the story we ended up telling was more of an origin story, because we felt like we needed to tell the story of why her hand came alive and kind of set the context for this character. But truthfully, we left stories on the table that I was equally, if not more, excited for, that I wanted to tell. But it's tough to do as it's just the two of us and a sound designer. If it was ever possible, if you ever found the opportunity to develop more, I think I'd love to. I don't know about you, Kate.
Oh yeah, I definitely would. Yeah, definitely would.
So it's definitely built in mind to be a larger series. It's just we did the 5. It was about 5 minutes that we could do to get this one done.
In this world today, there seems to be a lot of things that are being repressed. How important do you think the topics of your story, how do you think they'll resonate today as we're facing a new administration and changes?
That's a really good question. I think for women, and as a woman, I think like from that point of view specifically, I feel like, especially like our generation of like millennials and Gen Zs, like I think there's a lot more awareness of how repressed women are, or oppressed women are, and how repression and oppression are hand in hand. Because I think oppression is like from the outside and repression is from the inside, and we're kind of becoming more enlightened on how these two things, like just like how they work together. So I hope that it sparks thoughts in girls and women's minds. And I don't want to speak for other genders. All I can come is from the woman point of view. But
Well, I wanted this to hopefully feel like it wasn't. I mean, as much as I wanted this to be a female main protagonist, I thought that these stories could resonate with people as a whole. I think sexual identity, sexual expression, kink, there's a lot on the table that people don't talk about. I'm bisexual, and I think the story around bisexual people is just like these overly confident, overly sexually just deviant individuals, and it's like, no one ever talks about how confusing it is to be attracted to multiple genders. No one ever talks about what it means to actually feel like you're carrying an internal freak. And I thought that there are stories that are being left on the table that we could actually tell here that explore that. I think what's happening, politically, and what's happening right now is just a reflection of all the need for these kinds of stories to be told. I think I got into animation because I love the impact animation can have on people. As a kid, obviously animation is usually geared towards children, but as a whole, like animation has had a massive influence on me in the way I see the world and different characters of impact with, and identified with, and seeing people who tattoo characters on their arms, people who carry the weight of the world on the base of a character they've seen and or a story they've experienced. It's why I wanted to get into animation. I love the medium, but I love the ability to tell these stories. And personally, that was why I got so excited by the stories that this character to be able to explore sexual oppression for me as a queer man. I felt like there was just a lot that people could identify with, and a lot of stories just aren't being told in this way. And I think everyone just needs these kinds of stories, not just this story, but any kind of story to latch onto to gain a sense of self. It's the world is such a tumultuous place. It's hard to learn who you are and what morals you carry and who you want to be. And I think stories and film and characters really help guide people to understanding who they are. And so I saw this as like, oh man, like I could do this for queer people, like the inner freak I've carried as a bisexual man. Like I can make a story that makes this funny and weird and maybe someone might feel a little less odd about themselves as they try to figure out their own sexual identity and expression.
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't mean to say like, oh, just for women. I meant just speaking from my
Oh no,
perspective.
I'm sure, but
But
it's definitely your
Oh
perspective.
yeah.
I
yeah,
wouldn't want to speak for. I don't know how. I've only experienced sexual female oppression through my wife and through women around me. So I definitely understand and want to speak for other people.
right,
I
right,
Oh
get it.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we all
that,
completely understand what you're saying, Kate, because you want to speak for women and not speak for others. I mean, I completely understood that. So
okay, good, good. But
yeah.
yeah, like my hope is that it and also just working with you, Derek, it was like I want to make stories that we all can just like come together and be like, oh yeah, like even men are like, yeah, sometimes I feel weird for whatever
Well,
reason
that's why I think it was
about
so
my
awesome. We had that
expression.
conversation about repression. We're halfway through writing this thing because we realized we were completely separate pages. And I was like, oh, but now all of a sudden we're two individuals kind of connecting on that, sharing our stories, kind of giving a glimpse into our own experiences to help kind of fuel why this character existed to begin with and what we were even trying to do with it. I think it was honestly really valuable to me. It gave me way more insight into even what we were doing and allowed it to just to kind of creatively explode on me.
Right, yeah.
And can we talk about the collaboration? Because you guys just kind of met for this project. Can you talk about the collaboration, the chemistry you guys had, and then the unusual working situation? Because I know it was during COVID and you guys are in different cities.
Yeah, oh, I can speak. I mean, I'm a motion designer by trade. I create all sorts of marketing videos and promotional material constantly, and so and I typically work remote. And so with COVID and with the fact that we at that point everyone was so scared of being around other people and there was no means of doing any sort of production, it was like, okay, well I know that I can produce something remotely. I know I have the tools and the understanding to kind of come up with a production. So that was not super unusual to me. Quite frankly, I spend all my time tooling away at my computer here anyways, playing with keyframes and whatnot. It was really more just trying to, come up with and figure out what to make. When Kate and I came together, it was definitely a little odd, I'll say, because it was two individuals we didn't know each other at all. We're just meeting online, talking about how she had this awesome opportunity with the producer at Sony, and I was looking for another project, and she had this amazing artwork, and so we just kind of started talking and hanging out online. We kind of created a bi-weekly meeting. We just kind of chat and um, but honestly, I think the chemistry. I think we kind of just got lucky. I think honestly, the stories that she wanted to tell and the characters she built just happened to resonate enough with me in a way that it wasn't just like a project I wanted to work on, which is what I initially sought out to find. And I know you were just looking for an animator, someone to like help you get this across the finish line. And instead, we actually, we wrote a lot together. We kind of collaborated a lot in a way that I think it was really nice, especially being so isolated during COVID, to like have someone I could be like so creatively engaged with. It was really meaningful for me.
Yeah, yeah, I also agree. I think we got really lucky. Because again, like not knowing each other, like who knows? Like I could have been just like some crazy person and or you could have been some crazy person, but yeah, we still might be. But I think we both just wanted to like make something and I think that's really just how lucky like we both stuck through it till the end and there was a lot going on in life. Like you were like a block away from the fire line. I went back to school during it. Like we did a lot and we still stuck through and finished. And I think that out of all of it is like one of the luckiest feats of it is that we actually
It's
finished.
huge. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's awesome. That's always been my issue as an animator is finding people who can like trudge a project across the finish line like that. You know, it's like I have so many people I've worked with, so many creatives that are so excited by the project or by the process of making something, and then 6 months later, like I can't, you know, I have a project right now that fell flat right now because I have two animators that just kind of like blew me off. You know, I think they hit their limit on getting the project done, which I understand and I totally get it. I think it's what separates the professionals from the amateurs. But so finding somebody who actually was willing to really hammer on a project for 2 years, creatively be engaged regularly was yeah, I felt super lucky to stumble onto Kate.
yeah, same. And also just in general, like I think our demeanors worked pretty well together. Like um we, I think we just got along, and that is also something I'm very grateful
Yeah, that
for.
was nice. Yeah.
That's a good perk. We just kind of got along, and I think we both um gave in a little bit here and there. Like we both were pretty what's the word? Like we would compromise, but also be like, hey, I really want this thing here, or I really want that thing there, or I don't think this works, and that's also hard just as on an individual level. Um, so it was nice to have. It was nice to be able to find that in myself, and then also to have somebody else who was gracious enough to give it, because that is hard.
Yeah,
Honestly, it's hard.
that's also
It's
hard to
hard,
find. Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just
And
hard to
I remember a
do.
few times I had to check my ego and be like, well, this is what she wants. This makes sense. And I remember like the not to give anything away, but the blender moment, I was adamantly against that, and I honestly think it's one of the best moments in the film. And so I'm like, okay, like
I don't know. I didn't know
I'm glad that you fought for that. You know, and there's a lot of like moments, but I think that's part of the. I personally, I always want to gravitate towards having like a creative partnership. Ideally, I'd rather be a co-director than entirely doing it on my own because I think there's a level of there are things I'm not to be braggadocious, but I think I'm great at things. I like to do things like gravitate towards things I can own. There's a lot of stuff I just don't, stuff that I don't have the best eye for, and there are things that I just don't think I can carry the weight. And having a partner to do it, and Kate was amazing for this. One of the things I really struggle with is color, the use of color. I almost when I'll storyboard almost do everything in grayscale, almost like I want to ignore color until I really have to figure it out. She's fantastic with the use of color. It was like I had to just I said nothing about color. I was like, I'm not going to say it. She's got such a vision, and she knows exactly what she's doing with the way she wants us to feel every scene, every moment to look just from a color perspective. It was incredible, and like being able to kind of shed that part of the production and that side of the directorship was really nice. And so we had that back and forth. I think we both really have our strengths, and the fact that she's a really talented illustrator and really focused on animation allowed us both to kind of take ownership over our own individual areas that we could provide expertise, and then kind of give to the other person to let them shine when it was their turn to be the experts. And I think it really worked out.
Well,
And then
I just want to
you
say thank
guys,
you. That's very nice of you, Derek. And I do feel like that too about you. Also, like you taught me so much about animation. This was my first animated endeavor, and there were things I was like, I don't even understand, like smears. I'm like, what the heck is this?
It was fun.
So really, like, taught me a lot throughout this whole thing. A
and
lot,
then
a
you
lot.
you guys have another bond. I guess during the early part of the project, Derek, where you live, there was some fires that they wreaked havoc, and then the LA fires here in 2025 they affected UK. Can you both share a little bit of your experiences and did it affect anything that you guys were working on?
Yeah, so when the fires hit, I was part of it was the Marshall's fires out in Colorado. It was the end of December. I was working on this project. I was right in the middle of animating one of the scenes when my wife yelled up to me. She asked me if I could smell smoke. And I looked out the window and it was just like hell's inferno. It was just red and ash fire and fall. It was like we literally just panicked, grabbed all our stuff literally in less than 3 minutes and ran out the door. Like literally, it was like I was covered in soot and ashes that time. It was the same thing with what happened out in LA, where the winds were over 80 miles an hour. The fire was jumping quarter mile, half mile. It jumped the highway even. So it was just the entire town got ravished in a matter of minutes. I was lucky that my personal computer had had issues, and so I'd actually just taken it into an ID guy, and so it was actually still boxed up. And I was just animating on my personal on my work computer, my laptop, and so I was able to grab my laptop, grab the box of my computer, and grab my dogs, and that's all I had. Was I didn't even grab any clothes or anything. I just had my computers and my dogs, and got in the car and ran. Which was lucky because I hadn't back. I mean, I was regularly backing up, but I would have lost probably about 3 weeks of animation at that point, which was a little poor because I hadn't backed up. But yeah, so that meant that I had to animate and work on the project out of Airbnb for about 4 months to get the thing done. It was definitely a little tumultuous, a little crazy. So hearing about these LA fires, it almost feels cyclical. That it's almost the same thing's happening here, but down by where Kate is.
And then Kate, what did you have to go through? I know we've had to reschedule a few times.
Yeah, well, my situation, I mean, LA was insane during those weeks. No one knew what was going to happen. It was just like felt like we were like kind of being encircled by fire, and because there's the Palisades. I'm looking at my map, Palisades and Eaton, and then there were just like all these little ones. But I Derek got his fire. I think you were like literally a block away from the fire line, from what I remember you saying.
Yeah.
For me, like people in East Hollywood had evacuated, and I was like, I'm in Silver Lake, so I was like, well, that's close enough for me. Like I'm just gonna leave. And we just weren't really sure when it was gonna end. For this project, it didn't affect anything because we've been done, but LA has just felt different since, with all like toxic ash, and
Mm.
the rain came and everyone was like, is it just kicking up the ash again? And the air has been very bad since, but for me, it didn't affect this production at all. We were very done by then.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the toxic ash and the rain causing any sort of issues with the air. It was about a year or so till things kind of really settled here. About
Boy.
almost 2 years. So it was like, yeah, I mean, the house took almost 6 months for just this house to get remediated, but then there's the issue of all the kind of toxic plastics being in the soil and all that. So it's like so it's a lot to deal with on top of trying to get this project squared away. And so it definitely made things a little harder. I think even slowed down the production a little bit, but what can you do?
Yeah,
I was committed to getting it done, and so it was at that point. It's just like we'd already storyboarded everything. We had the animatic. She was drawing everything. It was just time to just kind of plug and chug. And so it was just like put my
I
head
don't.
down. If anything, it made it easier to kind of focus on the chaos of being stripped of my home for 6 months. I was like, I'll just focus on this project and just like make that my life.
I have no idea how you did that, because just this past, just being here doing life regular, I I was so scatterbrained. I can't imagine like plugging into a project like that. And I mean, maybe it was like a good distraction. I don't know, but I don't. It was for me
Well,
just
yes.
like, oh
The other
yeah,
thing is the hotel we fled to initially was during COVID, and so that everyone fled there. Like this, there were two hotels in the area that were like everyone who's fleeing the fires, you're welcome here. No one was wearing their masks. Everyone fled. So the entire hotel was filled with everyone who got COVID. So as soon as I fled to that hotel, I immediately got COVID, and so I was forced to be bedridden or in this hotel, and then the Airbnb like in this like for about 3 weeks couldn't do anything. So the one thing I could do was be at my computer, and so I can only play so many video games before I was like, okay, I should also do some work. And so
And then lastly, what are you guys working on now?
I guess I can go first. So right now I'm working on an animated docu-short, actually, about the siege of Sarajevo. My wife and my wife, the one who went to Emerson, she is a journalist, has a journalism background, and when we were traveling in Sarajevo, which is in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Eastern Europe, we met an individual who told us his story of surviving the siege of Sarajevo, which was a 4-year uh, siege on the capital city of Sarajevo. Um, him and his family were able to survive it by listening to music for about 4 years while in captivity. So they were just like underground in the dark, trying to survive, finding cassettes from an underground radio station and listening to music to kind of to endure the siege. So right now I'm putting together. I have an interview with the individual, and I'm trying to animate it. I want it to be an animated documentary to kind of tell the story in a way that is both palpable, but also really kind of gives a gives it its due justice. So that's something I'm working on. I'm hoping to have done by the end of the year.
It's a really
Kate,
incredible story.
anything on your docket?
Um, this past May, I abandoned everything for a minute to sort of get some personal things in order, but I recently started writing short stories about unrequited love. So I'm kind of thinking about like how can I
Ooh.
dive back into this and make like a short little script about sort of like unrequited love and again repression and the way like repression and like sexual repression. I always go back to this sexual repression and unrequited love can sort of like butt up against one another and like the characters that are feeling frustrated, I guess you would say, and end up in their own sort of like fantasies. So kind of just brainstorming on that and just thinking about new stories to tell, not necessarily animated, but yeah, just still playing with this theme. It's one that I like a lot.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. We're looking forward to seeing you guys in Palm Springs on March 21st, March 27th through 31st. Been a long few days. Have you either one of you been to Palm Springs?
No,
Yeah,
I'm not.
no, I drove out maybe twice over the past couple years. It's a really cool little city, lots of great architecture. I don't know, just hot, really hot.
It'll be
But
very warm, but you can show Derek around, give him the tour, and I can
Yeah,
give you guys some tips as well.
please. Yeah, I'm super looking forward to it. I'm really excited to come.
Well, we're excited to have you. We're excited to share your film with our audience. I think they're going to love Inner Freak. I think it sounds fantastic, and we're excited. So, just a reminder, March 27th through 31st at the Palm Springs Cultural Center, there'll be the 14th annual AmDocs. Passes are available right now. Check out our website. Derek, Kate, thank you guys so much for being with me today, and can't wait to see you guys in Palm Springs.
yeah, thank you so much. This is
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. This is awesome.
really excited to be there.